pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good morning. I want to welcome. We have a couple new legislators in the room on this committee. We have Noel. Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us. And then Michael is in the back there. Good to see you, sir.
I'm not on this committee, but
Well, appreciate that you're here to sit in and enjoy it with us. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. I look for a motion to approve the minutes. Everyone had a chance to review it?
I'd make that motion.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a second? Great, thank you. Any discussion or questions? If not, all in favor of accepting? Aye. Any opposed? Wonderful, thank you. All right, let's jump right into our resolutions today. Some somewhat simple and somewhat resolutions we've seen before, but let's go ahead and jump right into them. Dave, are you prepared to help us speak through these?
Sure.
So the first one is on the snowmobile trail grant pass-through monies.
Yep, this just authorizes the chairman to sign the documents to accept and disperse the funds, and then also we have annual agreements with each of the clubs outlining the responsibilities that they have and the ability in some cases to use lands that we own for this purpose.
Dave, I'll look for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
All right,
I love
thank you.
that idea.
So as we all know, snowmobile is important to this area. This is some pass-through monies that we get every year, and we're excited to pass these through to be utilized by folks in our county. So any discussion or questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thanks. Jump into two here, resolution authorizing reimbursement for COVID-19 public transportation services.
Yeah, so last year we received or were authorized to utilize around $2.9 million in CARES funds for transit purposes. Legislature accepted those funds, authorized the chairman to use them. This specifically just identifies a project, if you will, within that grant, and it's going to pay Oswego County Opportunities for the free transportation we asked them to provide to take people to vaccination and testing.
See, we look for a motion to discuss. Marie, do I have a second? Ed, thank you. All right, any discussion?
Dave, do we pay anything out of the county's pocket?
No.
We're not paying one thing for this. This is fully funded. A question I have, and this is just a question to direct to them at some point, is we have these gigantic empty buses, ghost buses. My neighbor rode it for an entire day.
Yeah.
Now, after complaints have gone in, they tinted all the windows. Well, why do we need these gigantic city-sized buses when everybody's trying to push energy efficiency? Why can't we do a smaller transportation bus?
That's an excellent question, and we have asked the state and federal transit folks the very same thing. We've been trying to get a waiver to use smaller, more efficient vehicles, but the law that authorizes them to give us money states a certain size bus is a minimum to be used for these programs.
So
We've asked for a waiver.
who did you ask? The public, you said public transportation?
Yeah, we've asked, we start with the guy at the top in New York. His name is Kent Sopris, but he is left now.
Yeah, he went on the rail.
So he's doing rail projects now.
So who's the guy now, or woman, or?
They're in between, but, I would think it's William Tresky.
Zabosky.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the people under this guy have said, we think it's a good idea as well, but he has never signed off on it. In fact, if Chanel will put her hand down for a minute, at one point it was suggested to us that, we're recording?
Yeah,
Yes.
All right, so I won't tell you what the state suggested to us. But let's just say there's a term, I think it's something like silent acquiescence. That might play a role here.
Yeah.
In other words, if you don't hear no, and you didn't hear yes,
Well, I'm sure the fleets, all these big cumbersome buses targeted at larger city, denser populations.
sure.
But I mean, they're flying down the road, they're up and down, for the college, Thompson Road, all over the city. Mainly I just see people getting off with suitcases and tattered coats
Yeah, so
by the movies.
most of that, what you're seeing there on those routes and those folks, those are all Central buses, and we have nothing to do with those whatsoever in the decision about the
Their
routes,
size.
the size of the bus. We don't pay for any of those except that we give an annual allotment from our mortgage tax to Central for their operations. But we have no say right now, especially since we don't have anybody on the board again, in how those are used.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. Any further questions? Not? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great, thanks. EP3, budget modification for capital project 192 grant funds. Dave, this is what is this return of additional monies from a grant, or?
Yep, so this allows us to now accept some of the grant funds that we acquired and earned over the course of this project. And because some of them are based on the net final cost of the project, there wasn't any way for us to know before, until the project was done, exactly how much we would get from a couple of those sources. This particular one, the first one, the $500,000, that was a set amount. But anyways, we'll be modifying the budget a couple of times as those applications go in to reimburse us for a good share of the cost of that project.
That's great. All right, I look for a motion.
So moved on.
Ed, thank you. Have a second? Paul, thank you. Okay. It's great to see these monies come back. We always talk about how there's local share in projects, and then we need to get the grant monies. When the grant monies come in, it's nice to get them back. So it's good to see this come through.
Can I ask Dave a question?
Sure, go ahead, Michael.
When will you be doing something similar to this with the IDA in terms of our $250,000 commitment for that project?
Yes.
Okay.
When do you want me to do that? Today?
Whenever you want to.
Okay.
All right, sounds good.
The money's burning in our pockets.
All right.
You can bring it in a paper bag to the next meeting.
Okay.
We've talked about paper bags. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, great. Thank you, Dave. All right, resolution awarding professional services and RFP, first and last mile mobility service provider.
I'm going to ask Don to talk about this a little bit, but basically there's a gap between where our transit routes run and where our residents need service. And it's not cost effective or efficient for us to drive every single road with those buses in the county. So first mile, last mile gets people who need transportation from their home to a place where they can get a transit bus to continue their journey and then back again. And I don't know if you want to add anything besides
No,
that.
you did,
That was perfect.
you did great.
That's great. All right, let me look for a motion. Do I have a motion for that? Make a motion. Paul, thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, thanks, Ed. This seems like a great program, like you said. I'm excited for this one. It's good to see funds coming through for this. To some of Marie's points earlier, it's the inefficiency of some of our routes and some of our buses to have a process like this that kind of picks them up for a mile, brings them there. You're not wasting that giant bus going up and down, town roads and things like that. So it seems like it makes a lot of sense.
So there is state and federal money for this, but the local share is paid by the provider.
Perfect. And who's the award going to?
VTC,
BTC, okay, Volunteer Transportation. Perfect. All right, we got a motion, right? So any questions? If not, I'll look for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, great, everyone. We'll jump to our last one. This is just our annual appointment to our Oswego County Soil and Water Conservation Board. You see the names on there. I'll look for a motion to discuss. Motion to discuss. Noel, thank you. Do I have a second? Paul, thank you. All right, Linda Lockwood, Mary Ellen Chesbrough, and Thomas Banofsky. I believe these are all reappointments, correct?
Yes.
All right, and you see the terms listed there. Any discussion? All right, appreciate the folks who are willing to serve on these boards for us. They are very important. And I know Swell Water does a great job. We just really appreciate them. So, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great. We are through the resolutions. Thanks, everyone. Let's jump to reporting departments. Dave, is there anything in community development that you'd want to update us on at this time?
No, just getting the year started, and it's always a little difficult waiting until February to do that. So I made my pitch for a little more business activity in January, that annual pitch, but March will bring a lot more of the same that you see here today, very similar things. So
Thank you.
and it'd be good if you actually found a community development director sometime soon.
That is a discussion that we are having. That's a good point. Thanks, Dave. All right. Anybody have any questions? All right. If not, I see our friends from Operations Oswego County, the IDA, are here. Welcome, everyone. Ed, go ahead.
Yeah, and before you finish the introduction for them, I'm sure they have current business that they want to discuss, but I've also invited them here today to bring us up to speed as far as the information that they're aware of to the CPACE energy funding programs. There's been renewed interest in this, and I think we'd be short-sighted not to educate ourselves and know fully what the impact would be, the pros and cons of such a program before we make a decision to the full legislature as to whether the county should support this.
Sure.
So as part of that education, I've asked Mike and Kevin to prepare some information for us today. So, with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, sir. So again, welcome our friends from the IDA, Operations Oswego County, Austin, Kevin, and Mike. Feel free to give any updates if you'd like. I do know that next month you plan on presenting the annual IDA update document as well. So
The annual report.
Yep.
For the IDA.
So we'll look forward to that for next month.
Next week.
but if you want to give us any other quick updates, or if you want to jump right into your presentation.
I'll let Kevin jump into this because there could be some questions regarding it. Kevin is our business finance director of Operations Oswego County. Coordinates our financing programs. Very knowledgeable. This is a financing program, so Kevin did the research on it.
Excellent.
And prepared to give you an update.
All right, well, welcome, Kevin. Feel free to step up to the table here if you'd like, or wherever you are more comfortable.
Sure, I'll just.
And feel free to kind of give an overview, and then if we have any questions, we'll jump in.
Okay, great. So CPACE is actually a federally kind of allowed program, which has been brought into New York. It's a way to bring financing into a large project to finance either energy savings or energy generation as part of the overall building. So a large building with a large roof may have solar generation on the top of another, large building that's retrofitted, maybe new insulation, new windows, doors, heating, HVAC, lighting, those types of things. So this project is used for commercial buildings owned by for-profit or not-for-profit companies, no municipalities, no municipal uses, but for-profit or not-for-profit. There's some complexities to the program that make it not very suitable for a very small project, but say, not-for-profit could say a hospital building, a hotel, something like that might be renovating, putting in all new HVAC, new water heaters, insulation, windows, those types of projects as part of maybe an overall renovation would qualify for this financing. So it isn't a financing to gut and rehab a building. It only handles the one piece, which is the heating and the energy aspects of the building, generation or conservation. So it's a joint program. So Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board has been kind of looking into this program and actually has been promoting it in our region. They're not directly involved in the program, but it's something they've taken on to bring this financing to our region. They've introduced us to what is actually a not-for-profit company called EIC New York, and EIC New York it's actually a local development corporation. They are one of the parties involved in this. So there are a couple of parties. If there's a project, so you have a project owner, you would have the general financing, the bank, say, for that project. the county's involved, there's this other not-for-profit involved that administers the program, and then there's lenders. So the way the not-for-profit isn't the lender, they basically introduce the lenders to a project. There's a list of numerous lenders. Some have different project sizes that they'd like to target and other things that they look for in projects, specific projects. So there's a list here, so you can kind of see maybe 12, 15 different lenders that are signed up already into this program with the EIC New York PACE, which is the not-for-profit. So what happens is, project comes along, it first has to be qualified by the project's owner's engineer, and then EIC PACE will review the plans, and they have an engineering firm that's NYSERDA certified. So basically the plans need to meet certain criteria that NYSERDA has set, probably similar criteria they have for other energy efficiency projects and grants and things. So it's established that there's a project and there's eligible things there to finance. Then what happens is the project is taken out to the lenders. If a lender gets interested, then the lender and this EIC New York work together. EIC New York would be where the county comes in, is the county has to allow EIC New York to place a benefit assessment lien on the property, which is a lien to support this lending, but it's subordinate to the county's tax lien positions, but it would be senior to banks. So it's in this area below the county, but above a bank, even a first mortgage. The not-for-profit files a lien here at the county clerk, much like a bank would. This is a special kind of lien, though. It follows the property. It's not a lien. It's not a debt of the owners of the property. It's a debt of the property itself. So it's that's one of the reasons the county is involved, because the county has to pass a law and then sign an agreement with EIC that allows EIC basically to file these liens. Once the deal is struck with it, the engineers agree, one of the financing companies is online, everyone agrees this is a program, the lien is filed, the loan is consummated, and the money is forwarded into the project. EIC New York handles all of the billing and collections for the lender, so this not-for-profit steps in and handle basically as a third-party administrator somewhat of this program. So they're billing the client, they're paid. It's an annual payment. Some of the lenders allow twice-a-year payments. So this not-for-profit does the collections work. It all moves along. The Lanca Loans are determined by the type of assets that are financed. So if it's depending on if replacing windows may have a longer life than other things you may do, or certain energy generation equipment like solar panels may have a life of 20 years, so it'll be a longer term loan than maybe some interior work. The payments are made if the building changes hands during the term of the loan, so it could be a long-term loan, say 15, 20 years. Building likely might change hands during that time. Again, the lien goes with the building, so whoever buys that building would know that there's a lien on the building already. They're buying the building with the lien, so they need to pick up basically and start making those annual payments to the capital provider. The big question is what happens when things go bad. Things go bad with projects. As explained in the lien order, the tax lien is since the highest priority. These guys, this benefit assessment lien would be in the middle between the tax lien and a lending institution. The lender has the right, so the lender holds the lien, so the lender has the right to foreclose on that lien. Before they do, they'd have to pay anyone senior. So before they foreclose, they'd have to make sure all taxes are paid. That, of course, foreclosure is extreme, but we all know it happens. And then, of course, as any bank that foreclosed on a property would do, they look for another buyer. That buyer would then have this lien on the building already that would have to continue to pay the payments. So it's a way to bring financing into fairly larger projects in our county. It has been rolled out in the surrounding counties. The city of Oswego is involved in this, and basically all the counties around us in the central New York region are participating, in some cities as well. There's quite a list. Of course, Central New York Regional Planning has been kind of promoting this as a way to help with their environmental agenda. That's kind of the program. And from a county standpoint, the law has to be passed, which we have the text of, and then there's an agreement between the county and this not-for-profit that allows them to basically file this lien and then assign the lien to the lender. So that's where I think there'll be difficulties using this project or this program in practice is the lien position, where if a bank has a first lien that maybe is a relatively new loan, not paid down very much, why would a bank let an energy efficiency lender, an energy project lender in above, ahead of them in the lead position? That's a question that I guess remains to be seen. We know there have been projects using this, so there are ways that that's done. Not all commercial properties have mortgages either. There's different ways to finance them that may not actually be a filed mortgage. Another way a lender may look at this is that it adds value to a building on which they have a first kind of financial lien at least. So maybe they would be willing to have this money come into the project to improve the building. It actually increases the value of the asset they have a lien on. But I think that would be one of the trickiest things to get it used. The other challenge here is we don't have extremely large, an abundance of very large buildings that would have, $100,000, $500,000 type green retrofitting with all the insulation, windows, lighting, not so much lighting, but generation and HVAC. In a bigger city, bigger buildings that would have projects of that size. Hotel Syracuse used this program for I think close to $10 million of financing. If you think of the number of rooms in Hotel Syracuse and how many, I don't know exactly what they financed with this, but all the heating and cooling in a hotel and insulation, windows, all those things.
That was about a $60 million overall project.
Overall, yeah. So about roughly 10 million of 60 million was financed through this particular program.
So one good aspect of this program is it's not like a typical government program where they put up 20% of project costs. If the project cost is defined as solely related to energy efficiency and stuff, they can finance 100%.
Can I ask Kevin, from what you found out, administratively, what would the county be required to do other than pass this local law? I mean, would they be required on a per project basis to participate and approve, or is it they're kind of out of the picture once they've done that?
Essentially out of the picture. The not-for-profit would provide a report to the county of any liens and the activity on liens in the county, but there's no action required on an annual basis or anything when that report is received, because that agreement is basically giving this third-party not-for-profit serves both, in a sense, the county and also the lenders to bring them together to do this deal. Yeah. So really no ongoing. The initial work is reviewing the law, obviously passing the law, or agreeing to the contract, which goes part and parcel with the local law, so the county law.
That's great, Kevin. Ed, do you have any questions off the top?
Yes, and it's my belief that the payment schedule is tailored around other mortgages and liabilities that the owner has, so that it is makes it a little bit more palatable for people to make the payment.
Well, typically the payments, the way we understand it, it's either one payment a year or maybe two, depends on
Right.
the bank involved or the lender involved.
It would also have to be tied to the useful life of the equipment as well. If it's like solar panels or something, you're going to be able to finance longer than the useful life of those. But if it's energy, efficiency, where maybe it doesn't have a specific lifespan to it, maybe that could be done. I'm not aware on that, but I do know you wouldn't be able to finance longer than the life of the equipment. Exactly.
So the other question I have is, in lieu of the economic condition of some of the economic zones in Pulaski, available financing can make or break a project, obviously.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So my thoughts are, my question to you is, would this, in your opinions, put one more opportunity out there that may be able to make a project feasible for the owner?
And that's absolutely how I see it. It's a way to bring some additional capital potentially into the county with really bringing capital from outside the county into the county in a sense. We're not leaning back again on our local banks and other programs to finance. It may help in that stack of financing that large projects usually put together. This could be a piece of the stack with it, as long as the banks were agreeable to the lien position. So to me, the risk is that I think that we do some work up front, get this in place, we pass the law to sign the agreement, and then what if no one ever uses that? If there's just never a project where it quite makes sense. But but it would be there. There's no cost. There's no ongoing maintenance of this program. It'd be there. We could promote it through operations through the county and the
Well, it's
FDA.
one more
Tool.
tool that
Yeah.
thank you,
Sure.
that you can use, because you're always working to attract people to come here.
Well, there's another issue too. If it's in place, if the guidelines of the program are amended and modified in the future, it would be, then you would just slide right into it. That might make it more feasible to use this program. It could change over time.
From what I've understood, the program has actually gotten a lot more friendly from where it started. It was more administration on the county and the partners before, and now it looks like it's kind of shifted to become, and that's why I think it's gone from very few counties and cities in New York State adopting it to, I think, somewhere around 60 counties around there now. All of
31 counties and 25 cities, yeah.
So that I think has had a big impact on why it's been adopted. It's become more user friendly for counties to
Well,
participate.
we've been told that every county in central New York has passed the resolution, the law. And with exception of Onondaga, which is in process, and it should happen pretty soon.
Dave, go ahead.
So if we foreclose on a property that has one of these liens, does that lien get extinguished? Because typically when we take something to auction, everything's gone, clear.
I have to clarify that question, Ed and I were talking about that before the meeting, that exact scenario, Dave. And what they say in the literature is, should the property go to tax foreclosure, the lender will pay, the lender could foreclose, pay the taxes, and then I suppose that would be an event of default in the lending agreement, so they probably could pay the taxes and foreclose on their borrower. However, are they obligated to? Or is there some mechanism that either clears this? I don't know. I can find out.
And just I wanted to mention, we did talk to Attorney Mitchell. He's unfortunately on another call today. He's not able to get away from. But this is, obviously, would be going through him and Bill to have that discussion as well. So, but I do appreciate you bringing this forward. Marie, go ahead.
Quick question, Dave, Bill might be able to answer it. So when the county takes the property back, we essentially scrub all the debt off that property, correct? Any liens, encumbrances, anything?
I believe so.
There's a little bit of a tricky piece of like DEC liens. We've had to deal with that. But other than that,
But in general,
There would still be potentially IRS and things like that, though, but the person who's buying it would have to know that follows. But I mean, you can't scrub that debt, but that's not something that the county has to take care of.
State or federal liens, I think we can't get rid of, but everything else pretty much goes away.
any other lien on that mortgage could go away. This could not go away.
We need to clarify that
Clarify.
when in that case of county foreclosure.
And then if it turns out to be cumbersome, bothersome, or something that we're not happy with, we can always rescind the local law.
True.
There's no reporting.
Because
The reporting is to the county but there's no reporting from the county to EIC.
So if there's an active project using these funds, and we decide that we don't want to have that local law anymore, are we prohibited from rescinding the law because there's somebody using the program?
Well, again, we should clarify that, but it's
You keep throwing these curveballs at us.
I mean, the lien would be filed. The law essentially enables this not-for-profit to file that benefit assessment lien and then assign it to the lender. So the project had been done a few years back, and then we pulled the law. That lien would still be in place, of course.
The agreement between the county and the nonprofit.
But we could kick the tires on that one a little bit too. How to get out of it if it's not.
That's great. Thank you for bringing this forward. Ed, do you have any other questions? I mean, I think that was a good presentation. I appreciate it. No,
I have a question.
Sure.
I was just curious to know, it doesn't matter which lien is more money? They still get first position?
If it's like them versus a bank,
Yes.
yes, yeah.
Well, that doesn't make sense, honestly.
Well, and that's part of the concern would be, I think part of the concern would be if lenders are unwilling to lend with that in mind, then it could be a bit of an impediment. So we just, it's a tool, having it would be nice, but every project will have to decide, and every lender will have to decide if it makes sense for this specific project.
So that's true of every financing tool that you look at. You always have the option of going the other way or amending or modifying.
And Kevin, maybe, I didn't hear you say this, but if somebody say they have a mortgage on a commercial property and they want to do this, and it's going to be a, $500,000 project, and it's a $2.5 million building, and they already have a mortgage, would the current lender have to agree to subordinate, or can they they don't have any say in it?
They'd have to agree. Yeah, there's a sign, early in this whole application process, that's one of the first things I want to know for sure.
Okay.
Is any involved mortgage lenders would.
So I think it's been said that I think that there may be a lot of instances where this may look like it may make sense, but it won't ultimately work because the lender will not agree to subordination for a minor portion of the project.
Sure. Great.
Or there's new refinancing with another lender. Will do.
All right. Any extra questions? If not, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank
Thanks
you.
for bringing it forward. We'll look forward to your report, Michael, next month with the IDA annual report. And if not, I'll look for the proper motion. Motion to adjourn.
I thought,
Do you have something else? I'm sorry. Do you have something else?
I was just coming, well,
Yeah, I didn't know. If you have something else, that's
Dave and I wanted to talk, it's just, related to our discussion before about the Back Better Regional Challenge. I wanted to give an
Okay,
update.
sure.
So, Dave, I don't know if you've given them the full from where we started to where we are, but
We haven't really had a meeting of this committee
Okay.
since things have come together and
Okay.
our roles have been identified.
okay. So just kind of going backwards really quick, Build Back Better Regional Challenge is a program that was rolled out by the federal government in middle of 2021. It was kind of it's a regional competitive program that's available across all 50 states and territories. 529 regions and entities applied for this. 60 were awarded, and Oswego County has been fortunate and put together a really good application along with the Central New York region with Center State, Central New York Regional Planning Development Board, and the Mohawk Valley Edge. So we're one of 60, so we're about 12% of those applications were funded. We are one of them. Where Oswego County comes into play is that part of that regional application, there are 8, they call them component projects. One of those 8 component projects is an Oswego County project, and that is the build-out, infrastructure build-out of the expansion of the Oswego County Industrial Park down to the town of Schuylkill. Back in 2021, the IDA acquired 185 acres adjacent to the Oswego County Industrial Park for the purposes of attracting large users. We put together an application with Central New York region as well as the Mohawk Valley region for smart systems, for, you've probably seen a lot about semiconductor industry, looking at growing that down in Onondaga County at the White Pine site. This site is being looked at as sort of a supplementary for the supply chain and logistics around semiconductor as well as the smart systems industry. So at this point, because the phase 1 of the application was funded, we were one of 60 applications going forward. They say between 20 to 30 of those will be selected. So 1/3 to 1/2 of those will be selected to receive big money. Big money meaning our regional application, I believe, is around $85 million, $86 million. The current ask for the industrial park build out, I believe, there's some costs that we're being told are not eligible, so we're looking at trying to maximize the amount we can go for. The maximum amount we can go for currently is $7.5 million with a $2.5 million match. So that's what we're trying to maximize right now. There's plenty of infrastructure build out, road build out, sewer improvements, and other things that are needed down there. It's just some of them are eligible and some of them are not. So we're trying to maximize that right now. But we're working March 15th, the application is due. We're looking to have a draft application prepared by the end of this month to then refine in the next 2 weeks, between then and middle of March for that funding. We have we've been working with CNS companies to develop our engineering for it. Which is good because a lot of other places may not have that information and you're having to come up with it in a very short amount of time. Some places, you find out in December that your phase one application was approved and you've got 2-3 months to do everything. We have most of that engineering done because we did it last year and in the previous year. So we've engaged CNS to kind of fill in a little bit of the gaps of what you need for an EDA grant application, because this is an EDA program through the federal government. We've done that, so they're working on that. I think we're really good there. We working on the narrative now as part of this application, and really I think it's just making sure that the projects they make sense together. I mean, that's important. You can't have 8 different projects that don't really fit and are pulling in the same direction. So I think
Cluster.
it's towards the development of an industry cluster. Exactly. So we're trying to fit within that of what the regional plan is and how our project fits and improves that and will help drive that forward. And at this point, the IDA owns the property there. The applicant in phase 2, Dave Turner, and the county was the applicant in phase 1. And really want to thank Dave for putting that together, because if he hadn't, then we wouldn't be here talking about phase 2. But I've never seen money like this before being thrown around in levels. I mean, there's potentially almost $85 million to our region in this program, and we may not see an opportunity like this in a very long time, if ever. So being able to take advantage of it when we can and get that money to build that out and bring businesses that could be the future of Oswego County.
The uniqueness of this initiative too is that there's an umbrella application, which is the one that got moved up to the 60. The components of the final application, the 8 components of it, that there will be an applicant for each of those 8 components. EDA does not have to approve the lump sum overall package as a whole. They can selectively pick 2, 3, 4, or ever how many, 8, and fund those. So there could be a selection. So we're in a way also competing with the other 7 projects in the region. But we, from the application standpoint, given what we've seen of some of the other finalists right now, is we probably have the only one in New York State that is defined as a regional Mohawk Valley, Central New York application. The other ones, the other 2 applications, one is from State University, and the other one is from Empire State Development, which are not regionally focused. So from that standpoint, we think we have a little bit of a leg up.
A couple other things that give us an advantage is there's a lot of language in the notice of funding availability about looking at equity and inclusion and making sure that rural areas benefit as well. So we the bigger project team thinks that we have a distinct advantage there, and quite frankly, those 3 things are part of the reason why we're able to get our project in, is because we bring in a lot of opportunities for disadvantaged, lower income workers, workforce development, rural business and residents. And also, we have been working with some technical advisors that the feds have provided. And it happens that one of those is a graduate of University, born and raised in New York, and she is working very, very hard to make sure that we have one of the better applications. And this person interacts with the reviewers. So they're already getting an idea from the reviewers about what they're going to be looking at because they looked at the phase one applications and said, here's the really strong points of your application. Here's some of the points where you can improve. So we're getting really good feedback on our initial application to create a really solid final application. And then finally, it's not just $85 million if we're awarded the full amount. That doesn't count any of the match that would be brought to the table by all the partners. And it doesn't account for any of the investment from the private sector businesses that will be making investments in our region. There's already a list of several dozen, like Fortune 500 companies who have shown an interest in what we're proposing to do. And the chip plant alone would be how many, like
3,000 to 4,000 jobs.
3,000 or 4,000 jobs and billions.
That's the recent one in Ohio, that's why there was 3,000 jobs.
Yeah. It's transformative for the region if it comes together.
It's exciting. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the hard work you're putting in, and obviously the timelines are pretty quick here, so appreciate prioritizing and getting that done. So if there's anything you need from the legislature or this committee, give us a shout. But appreciate the hard work you're putting in. Any other questions? And when do we expect to know that? Obviously, it's due in the middle of March. When do you expect to have an answer?
I think they said August, perhaps.
September, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And any other questions? Anything else for today? If not, all right, I'll look for the motion.
Make a motion.
Motion to adjourn. Thank you, sir. Do I have a second? Great, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.